Gatekeepers, a historical study published in 2006 by Franca Iacovetta, a professor of history at the University of Toronto, delves into the impact of various societal figures, dubbed gatekeepers, on the lives of immigrants in Cold War-era Canada. These gatekeepers, encompassing social workers, mental health professionals, childcare experts, welfare administrators, and journalists, collectively molded newly arrived immigrants into conforming Canadian citizens. Iacovetta unveils a lesser-known narrative, revealing how this historical dynamic intertwines with the political, social, gender, sexual, and immigrant contexts of post-World War II Canada, shaping the citizenship landscape of a post-war capitalist democracy. Drawing from a rich array of sources, including oral testimonies and caseworker records, Iacovetta posits that Canada's gatekeepers endeavored to shape newcomers according to a narrow spectrum of Anglo-Canadian middle-class ideals. These ideals spanned political allegiance to democratic capitalism, opposition to communism, and adherence to norms governing familial structure, marriage, and lifestyle. She contends that these ideals perpetuated existing structures of privilege and power, characterizing Cold War Canada as a vertical mosaic where class, race, and gender-based biases dictated privilege and opportunity. Iacovetta initiates her exploration by portraying the demographics of early Cold War-era immigrants to Canada. Notably, the majority were youthful arrivals, with a pronounced preference for settling in Ontario over other regions. Originating primarily from Holland, Italy, Germany, and Soviet states, the immigrant influx excluded non-white individuals and those suspected of communist affiliations due to Canada's White Canada policy, enforced by the government. Simultaneously, the Canadian government faced external pressure from international pro-refugee movements and internal demands due to labor shortages, compelling them to admit migrants. However, the influx of migrants sparked concerns regarding political, sexual, and moral deviations. Social and medical professionals targeted these newcomers with the aim of assimilating them into Canadian ways. Iacovetta contends that the Canadian welfare state functioned to reinforce obedience to the economic order and its ruling elites. Within this framework, she argues that the gatekeepers' approach of modest cultural pluralism was crafted to pose the least threat to the state and its dominant classes, primarily emphasizing the installation of bourgeois values. Focusing on two key institutions, the citizenship branch of the federal government and the International Institute of Metropolitan Toronto, Iacovetta acknowledges their ostensibly benevolent intentions while asserting that their primary objective was to cleanse immigrants of foreign ideas and customs. Newcomers were expected to embody pleasing, decorative symbols of Canadian tolerance and pluralism, performing a carefully curated ethnicity through music, costumes, dances, handicrafts, and cuisine. Furthermore, Iacovetta reveals the gatekeepers' determination to reshape the domestic lives of immigrants. Dietitians, social workers, food journalists, and nurses scrutinized migrants' eating habits, molding them to align with Canada's pro-capitalist and pro-democracy ideal of family and kitchen consumerism. Similarly, gatekeepers intervened in relationships, promoting conservative and contradictory family values that favored a white, Anglo-Celtic and English Canada, middle-class, heterosexual nuclear household. By singling out traumatized European men as a specific peril to Canadian women, gatekeepers effectively ignored the broader harm inflicted on women globally in the name of male privilege. Iacovetta highlights the particularly harrowing ordeals of women who endured wartime suffering as victims, refugees, and sometimes even as internees in Nazi work camps. Canadian gatekeepers struggled to comprehend the magnitude of these traumas, instead passing moral judgment on the perceived sexual deviance of these traumatized women. Their aim was to shape all immigrant women into responsible wives and mothers capable of forming a strong partnership with a respectable man and raising a future generation of healthy and well-adjusted Canadian children. Moreover, women from Europe were viewed as potential espionage threats, leading the RCMP to employ authoritarian surveillance and deportation tactics to safeguard Canada against real or perceived dangers, a strategy Iacovetta labels as a Canadian iteration of McCarthyism, utilizing guilt by association tactics. She explores the conflation of sexual and political subversion in the Canadian psyche through the trials of various female spies, including Gerda Munsinger. In her concluding remarks, Iacovetta reflects on the dynamic between immigrants and gatekeepers, assessing its ramifications. She contends that gatekeepers consistently perceived immigrants as fragile or damaged individuals in need of sympathy, patience, guidance, and moral or psychological rehabilitation, along with instruction in participatory democracy and citizenship. Despite their benevolent intentions, gatekeepers intruded into people's lives and enforced or punished those who deviated from prevailing norms. Iacovetta concludes her analysis by examining the enduring influence of Cold War gatekeepers on Canada's contemporary response to the perceived threat of Islamic extremism, highlighting the continuance of repressive measures. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.